Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka Murdoch from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. Also, let me know in the comments below how long you've been learning English for. I'm really interested to find out. So today's video is all about the most common pronunciation mistakes in English, and I'm going to focus specifically on British English because I know many of you are interested in learning to speak like a British person, or you're interested in the British accent. And I've lived in the UK for a long time now, so I'm used to this accent and I'm comfortable talking about it. But if you'd like a similar video about American English, make sure you let me know in the comments and I can do that as well. So let's get started. The first pronunciation mistake that I hear a lot among people who are learning English is the way they pronounce the AW letter combination in words such as law. So often people kind of tend to mispronounce it as low, which is the opposite of high, but actually it's pronounced very differently. So law, as in the legal profession, or it can be part of words such as mother-in-law or sister-in-law. The sound at the end of the word, the AW sound, is just one vowel sound, whereas in words like low, you've got a diphthong at the end, which is like a double vowel sound, O. It's a very subtle difference, but it's very important. Okay, the next one is the EU sound, which in British English is pronounced like the word you. So in American English, for example, it can be more like a double O sound, like oo. So I've heard American speakers say, for example, new instead of new. In British English, this sound is slightly softer, so it's you. You can hear that y sound in there. So it's quite a tricky letter combination, quite a tricky sound, because in other European languages, it's pronounced very differently. So in French, it's more like an E sound. In German, it's oi. And in Polish, for example, it's eo. So that's why it's really easy to get confused there and to mispronounce it. But this sound, for example, comes up, for example, in the word pneumonia. You can hear pneumonia. You can hear the U sound in there. So that's how it should be pronounced. Okay, the next mistake that many people make is the way they pronounce their I's. So, for example, in the word rubbish bin, in the word bin, the I is a very short sound and it sounds kind of like bin, bin. And sometimes people tend to pronounce it like a long E sound. So, for example, like in real or mean or bean. But it's not pronounced that way. So remember that if you've got an I in the middle of a word, it's usually pronounced in a very short way, almost like a I sound. Bin, bin. And there is a huge difference between bin and bean, or tin and teen. Can you hear the difference? The first one is short, the second one is much longer. Okay, the next one is words such as would and could. And sometimes English learners tend to pronounce them as if there was a double O sound in there, but there isn't. So sometimes people kind of pronounce it as would or could. But actually, those sounds are much shorter. So it's just would, could. And you can hardly hear the vowel sound there. It is there, but it's very, very short and very subtle. So it's just could and would. Okay, the next one is the pronunciation of V and W. So the letter V in English is always pronounced as a V with a V sound. And some nationalities tend to pronounce words like very with a W sound because they get confused between the V and the W. So they might say something is very good. It's never pronounced that way. It's just very easy to just remember the rule that V is always pronounced as a V sound, not as a kind of W sound like W. Okay, the next one is the O in words such as company, love, oven. So in most European languages, I think that the letter O is pronounced as a O, whereas in British English, it's pronounced more like an A sound, which is quite confusing because it's not an A, it's an O. And that confuses English learners, and sometimes they can pronounce words such as company as company, or they might say oven instead of oven. But just remember that this sound is more of a kind of ah sound than an o sound. So company, oven, love. Okay, the next one is words that end in able, such as comfortable. Comfortable is a bit of a weird one because obviously there is the word table at the end, and the word table is pronounced with an able sound at the end. But in words such as comfortable, the ending is pronounced in a very different way. It's much shorter, it's just able instead of able, so that A isn't pronounced in the same way. And also in British English, you can't hear the R, even though it's there, so it's comfortable, not comfortable. As you know, in British English, the R sound, when it's in the middle of words, often kind of disappears and you can't really hear it. So that's exactly what happens here. It's comfortable rather than anything else. Okay, the next one is another very common pronunciation mistake in English. I hear it a lot. So it's words that end in age, A-G-E, such as manage, damage. And basically, English learners sometimes think because there is that A-G-E at the end, and on its own it's pronounced age, such as what's your age, or tell me your age. People might think that those words are pronounced in the same way, so manage or damage, but actually they are just pronounced with a very short sound at the end, which sounds more like age. So it's manage, damage, rather than manage, damage. Okay? And the final one is about stress. So what I mean by stress is the way you emphasize your syllables in your words. And sometimes one word can be both a noun and a verb. But depending on how you pronounce it, it is either a noun or a verb. So for example, take the word produce and produce. It is the same word when you see it written down, but actually it can be pronounced differently depending on whether it's a noun or a verb. So produce is a noun, and it's basically the fresh food you buy from the shop or from the market. And produce means to create something, to make something. So in produce, you can clearly hear that the first syllable is the strong one, produce. Whereas in the second one, produce, which is a verb, the second syllable is the strong one, the one that's emphasized more. And similarly in the word record, which is a noun, when you want to talk about the black disc that you play music from, record, the first syllable is the strong one, as you can hear, and the verb is written in the same way, but it's pronounced record, which means to register something on film, for example. So I'm recording the video, the verb is to record, and the noun would be record. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments how long you've been learning English. I'm really interested. Or whether you used to mispronounce any of these sounds or any of these words that I mentioned in the video today. And I'll see you next time. Bye!